Did you turn it off and turn it back on?
Oh.
Maybe it doesn't like being mounted.
Ah!
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Magus Brothers podcast. I am Tyler, and with me always is the wonderful...
Hey, y'all, I'm Feyerbrand, and thank you so much for joining us in episode 17?
16?
16?
Yep.
20? I don't know. 16. We're on episode 16. Hey, that's a game that we want to come out. But
that we're finally going to get information about in April?
Yeah, we got told to kick rocks for 2021, even though we all thought we were going to get news, but we didn't. But I'm kind of getting ahead of myself. But thank you guys so much for joining us. Episode 16, welcome. If you guys haven't noticed, our audio and our setups sound so much better. If you're on YouTube, welcome to our very first full episode of us actually having cameras on. So, hello. Hello,
Yes.
world.
Hello, and special shout out to my benefactor. Actually, it was you, Feyerbrand. You got me this wonderful Elgato mic. There's a bearded Santa with a red headband, just dropping through my oh my god, what's that called? Chimney. There we go. Like, could not think of that word.
This guy.
But thank you for the wonderful microphone.
Nice upgrade. Very much needed. You sound so much better. Now, it's all that software. The software is what helps it.
Well, either way, I don't care what it is. It's beautiful, it's gorgeous, and I'm very happy to sound so much better. But, for all of our listeners, hope you guys gals had a happy, merry, wonderful holiday and a happy new year. I hope it was great for everyone listening.
Yes. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I hope you guys got some good Final Fantasy stuff. Or anything, a video game or two, something.
A small break from, being around family the entire time, because that can be intense for anyone, no matter how great the family is.
Oh, I've had so much time off in like the last 2 weeks because of the holidays. And as much as I love my family, I'd still rather be around my family than go back to my job. So I don't know.
Yeah, I'm with you there.
Yeah. I really like my family. I would much rather be around them than go to my job.
Right?
I can't even joke about it.
Hard with you there. But we are, it's 2022 now. I mean, I'm always hard.
Always hard.
It's 2022. It is this January. I think it's I don't remember what date it is. I think it's the 28th, right around there. But it is the 25th anniversary of Final Fantasy VII.
Holy moly.
It is the 35th anniversary of the Final Fantasy franchise, period.
Wait, do you know what that means? That means it's been 25 years. That's 25 years of me not caring about Aerith.
Oh my.
That's a long time. That's a long time for me not to care.
Oh my god. It's only 3 days into the new year.
I know, I'm
part of the course.
Yeah, I know. I entered the new year like Sephiroth came down below to step Aerith.
Yeah, but it was oh my god, it was me. Anyway, so we're just gonna power slash our way through that. So let's cover a couple of things before we dive into this episode. We're gonna cover Endwalker, but before we get there, there's a couple of interesting tidbits that we won't spend too much time talking about, hopefully, but you never can tell with us.
Okay.
In no particular order, because I don't keep track of these things and we don't make notes. The first thing that jumped out at me was that working our way backwards, the CEO of Square Enix came out recently, and his end of year message, like right at the end of the year, basically talked about things coming in 2022 for Square Enix, but also emphasized that he thought NFTs were the future. Paraphrasing that. And we won't spend too much time talking about the moral debate here with NFTs. I know enough to know that they're bad, but not enough to debate it. And pretty much the response from Japan and everyone here at home pretty much is like a big negative, Ghost Rider. Please don't do this.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just I know like I don't know enough, like you said, to debate it as well, but it's just put your effort somewhere else that people actually care about.
I can tell you this much. This is the one thing I know. There is a semiconductor shortage, and servers are being used to mine cryptocurrency in many ways, but also to pay for NFTs. And your most popular, profitable Final Fantasy ever just had an expansion launch with people in queues for up to an over 5,000 because there couldn't be new servers due to a semiconductor shortage. And you're like, yeah, NFTs sound great. This
That's a
this
good
is
point.
great.
I didn't even consider that. Yeah, it's NFTs and crypto mining is like the leading cause of the semiconductor shortage.
Yeah, I mean, I wish I could claim it as my own original thought, but it's been pointed out by so many different people on Twitter, and social media in general. But it's a fair call out. I just this is not a great idea. Please don't do this. Be better, Square Enix.
Be better, Mr. Enix, or we will come to you and we will find you and probably not do anything, but
Other than say, be better.
just be better. All right, let's start taking our Japanese lessons. I don't know if he speaks English, and I don't want to assume it. And if we're gonna go there and insult the man to his face, let's do it in his own language.
Yes, I'm about this. But moving on past the discussion about NFTs, we had everyone collectively. I think we put on our clown makeup quite a few times
Oh
throughout
man,
2021,
I don't think it ever
awaiting.
came off.
Yeah, I don't think it did either. But we were awaiting news and updates about Final Fantasy 16 because let's be real, that game looks phenomenal and was dark and violent, and we were blown away by the trailer. Then we found out Creative Business Unit 3 and Yoshi P were on this, and that was even better. And then Endwalker came out, and Shadowbringers blew us away that whole time. Endwalker blew us away, and we were just so hungry and thirsty for information about 16. They promised us, quote unquote, promised us via a tweet saying that there would be more information in 2021, and it didn't come. But Yoshi P, being the great man he is, as opposed to just being like, a lot of other major game studios and just being like, yeah, I'm just not going to say anything and I'm just going to ghost that and ignore that promise ever happened. Slid in right the day after Christmas, I think it was, with an update, a nice written update, as he does, and basically explained, we're not going to read it here because it's a mouthful, but, punchline.
You can find a video on my YouTube channel about it.
Yes,
Check
check
it
out
out.
Feyerbrand's YouTube video and watch that video for a more in-depth dive here. But basically, pandemic pushed production back 6 whole months from outsourcing and assets. In some cases, they were straight up cancellations on delivery of assets, and they've got everything smoothed out. They're adjusting the last couple of things, but there was basically a 6-month delay due to COVID. And then he said that April would be the month that we would get some updates for 16 as they kind of ramp up into marketing for the release. I don't know if that means we'll get a PlayStation showcase. I don't know how this news will manifest, but April is apparently when we want to look for that Final Fantasy 16 goodness. So while we didn't get, the big update we wanted in 2021, at least Yoshi P gave us a very transparent, honest, apology, gave us the reasons, and said, here's when you can expect information. And I love that. I love that about Yoshi P. That's why he's so great.
I think April's actually a good time frame because that's going to be right after Strangers of Paradise comes out. That comes out in March. That's also going to be after the Chocobo Grand Prix game. I think that's in March, right?
I think so.
So yeah, it's right after 2 other Final Fantasy games. Endwalker has kind of come like winding down, I guess. The hype, is kind of going into its normal cycle at that point. So, like Final Fantasy 14 isn't, in the spotlight as far as Final Fantasy goes. So
It is worth mentioning, though, that, even though that the initial hype for Endwalker has kind of waned, tonight, while we're recording this, servers are going to go down for the extreme raids that come out. And then by the time April rolls around, we will have 6.1 probably coming out, which is essentially step 1 in the new 10-year chapter that they're going to be launching with 14. So we're going to have new story and things to look forward to there. And so, we will have patches coming out around that time too.
Yeah, and like obviously 14 is always gonna be relevant. I wasn't saying like, oh yeah, there's nothing now. I just mean like the launch of Endwalker. But I just think April, that's a good time frame. And we can kind of use the remainder, most likely, I'm assuming, of 2022 to really like build up the hype for 16. Because like as we've both said, we believe 7 Remake Part 2 is 2023 and beyond. So we're going to use 2022 to ramp up to the release. I feel like since we're getting an April info dump on 16, we're probably going to see the release for the holiday season of 2022.
That's my suspicion as well, because if we get information at April, Yoshi P has made it clear that when he releases, the next
Hmm.
time we see 16, that it wants it to be like with a release date in mind. And
Yeah.
based off of all the other small tidbits of information that he's given us about updates on where the game is at, I really do feel that we could be seeing April like a big trailer, a big showcase, and a release date. And usually that type of marketing is going to be like 6 to 9 months. So we really could see something, get in there right for the holiday season. So fingers
Hmm.
crossed that we see a 16, usher out the new year for us at the end of 2022.
Yeah, I'm hoping that their goal and what actually happens along with their goal is that we get it before Christmas. Like that's their big holiday. Everybody buys this for everybody for Christmas and the holidays for 2022. That's what I'm hoping for. It is a lot later. I obviously want to play the game right now, but what can you do? COVID is just crapping all over everything. So I'm hoping I'll have it by next Christmas.
I'm right there with you. I would love it. I think 16 is gonna be one of the ones, depending on what the actual collector's edition is. If Square Enix puts out a big box collector's edition, and we know they will, I'm gonna
Oh
try and
yeah,
get it.
yeah, we got to, dude. Like I every day I look at my first class edition for 7 remake and I don't regret it. I also have a couple other collector's editions, but the 7 remake was the big one that I really wanted, and we got to get that Final Fantasy 16 collector's edition.
I need it. I want it because 16 is so hype. It looks so good. Ugh.
Dude, it is. And it's like PS5 and it's just like the first Final Fantasy title that we know nothing about since Final Fantasy 13. Final Fantasy 13 came out in 2006. No, 8,
Yeah, I was
2008.
gonna say, well, it definitely wasn't 6. We graduated that year.
Yeah.
It was not out.
It was 2008, so that was 13 years ago. No, 14, coming on 14. So, oh my God, I'm so old. So, 14 years since our last Final Fantasy that we knew nothing about.
Mhm. It's been a long
So,
time coming.
this is huge. This is massive. I know you are as well, but like I'm just so massively hyped for this game.
Yeah.
I'm so
And
ready.
what other information have we gotten? The Final Fantasy 6 Pixel remaster. I don't think it got delayed
Yeah.
because they never gave it a release date, but
No, I don't
basically
think it
that's
got
gonna be coming
delayed.
out.
I think February.
Yeah, it's either this month or next month, but basically they announced like, "Hey, sorry this took so long, but we really wanted to put effort into it and make sure that
Yeah.
it was like peak
Perfect.
amazing and perfect. So, here's the release date, but it's actually not too far off." So, yeah,
I'm
I mean,
pretty sure that's February something. So what I'm hoping is this summer we see all of the Pixel remasters come out on PS5.
it needs to
That is what I'm hoping
happen.
for.
It needs to happen. I need it.
Very much so. That needs to happen. I know they're just trying to get us all to double dip, buy it all on
Yes,
PC.
exactly. I mean, Square Enix, if the CEO comments ushering in the new year weren't enough, we know they greedy. They give us good stuff, but they greedy.
They are, they do. They give us our most loved franchise, but then they're like, let's just take advantage of our fans. And it feels dirty and it sucks so hard
If it's
that
dirty, I'm a pig. Just gonna roll around in the mud, the Square Enix mud. Or should I
oh,
say the Final Fantasy mud?
oh God. Ugh. Ugh. There's probably snakes in there.
But I will not roll around in the NFT mud.
No, we won't. We will abstain from that and cleanse our sinful hands of NFT-ness. Ugh.
But anyway, that's been the majority of at least pertinent Final Fantasy news that we've been tracking. That has been on our radar. But we are going to, before we segue all the way into Endwalker, uh, what else do you expect? I know you talked about pixel remasters on console. We are expecting slash fingers crossed, hoping for
Mhm.
Final Fantasy 16 to come out by the end of the year. We I believe Yoshi P that April was going to roll around and we're going to get some good information there. Um, is there anything else you're hoping for with this being the 25th anniversary of 7 and the 35th anniversary of the franchise?
Yeah, I'm still kind of like my clown makeup for this has like never been taken off. I've never taken it off. I have been hoping for this since I don't even know how long, but a long time. The one thing that I want them to give me is Final Fantasy Tactics on both PC and PS5. With newly on PC, I want newly like mod community support and you know multiplayer for both. Like I just want it. Give me more Final Fantasy Tactics, please.
Yep, I want to see. I would love to see that too because you want me to play it. I want to play it. I just want it to be on console, whether it's a Switch or the PS5. Don't care.
Yes,
And
it's not an easily accessible game to play like legit. You could go take to the high seas and do it that way, but like to legit do it and support besides the mobile versions suck. I don't count those. Mobile versions of Final Fantasy Tactics are freaking garbage. I don't support them at all.
yeah,
So
and I don't
those
want to
don't
play it on
count.
my phone.
Yeah,
Ugh.
they suck. You don't
But
want to.
I want to see. I don't know if we'll get it this year, but I would love to see the trilogy remaster for Final Fantasy 13. Would love to
Oh,
see that.
dude,
I'd love to
that would be
re-experience those games.
so good on PS5. Because like even now to this day, Final Fantasy 13 is a gorgeous game. That game looks so freaking good. Even now, it is a PS3 game. And I think the whole trilogy remastered on PS5 on like one disc, one case, everything glorious. Easy $70 purchase.
I really want to reassess my feelings about those games. I mean, the first one especially, but I barely played the second one and never touched the third one. So I want to dive into them just to reassess my feelings there. Um,
And see, that's yet another game. Like, since you don't play like computer games, yeah, they're on computer. Those are all on Steam. The whole trilogy is on Steam, but and that's easily ish, accessible. But it's still a console game.
yeah, and I would love to experience it on the console on my big TV. That's what I want. But we've also got, like you said, we've got Strangers of Paradise in March.
Yes,
We've got the Chocobo racing game. I cannot remember the name, but that's going to
I
be
think it's
coming
just
out in
called
March.
like Chocobo GP, which is like Chocobo Grand Prix. Which, by the
Okay.
way, everybody expect some Magus Brother races. So we're going
Yes,
to be
we will
racing each
race.
other probably on streams one day or something, and we'll race you. I don't care
Yes.
who you are.
Or just race
Come race.
ourselves and you can watch us swear at each other.
So
Uh, and then, I hope, I would love, even if it's just like the teaserest of teases, I would love to see, some sort of remake part 2 update, even if it's just for the 25th
mm,
anniversary. I know that's soon, but that feels like an appropriate time to get like some little get my mouth watering there. But I don't know.
you know, you know what I could see happening on their 25th anniversary is just like, they show a 20-second video. That's all it has to be. Like the live stream, and then it says, stay tuned in 2023 for more information. Or, like maybe it's a Cosmo candle or something, because we know that's most likely going to be in
That
part two.
would be so cool.
Or like, a chocobo running past or something, because that's kind of like the first thing we're going to be doing besides like the calm area in part two is we're gonna be going chocobo, get a chocobo to get past the swamp.
I'm gonna paint you a picture, just a picture of the Cosmo candle, and like it's kind of at night, and so you're getting like the fire dancing going on, and then you
Yeah,
see
and you just
shadows of people walking around it. Nobody's there, but like you see
yeah,
the shadows of them walking around, and you just hear some banter in the background, kind of far off. How cool would that
but
be?
and then you have like the Cosmo Canyon theme like slowly build up. It build up like, but by the time you start noticing who the shadows belong to, you're starting to hear the drums and the like tambourines to the theme start to go in, and then you're like, oh my god, it's mother freaking Cosmo Canyon, and then it just fades to black and stay tuned in 2023 for more information or something. That's all they got to do. It's the 25th anniversary of Final Fantasy VII. The most, like, it's not even a question at this point. It got a full remake. It is the most loved Final Fantasy game in existence. No other
Don't
game's gotten a remake like this. Like,
don't
you
drop
can't
that ball,
question it.
Mr. Enix. Don't drop that ball. Don't miss this
Do
opportunity.
do something. That's all it has to be. Like, just I want an acknowledgement other than just like a Twitter pic of just happy 25th. Something more than that. This is like the Final Fantasy for the Western audience. This is it. This 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 created a generation of RPG gamers. Why I play RPGs almost exclusively now. Give us something.
Give us something more than a tweet and a picture.
Yes. Oh God, I want that video.
It would be good and toasty.
I feel like I almost want to hire somebody who can make videos like that. I don't have the experience to make something like that from scratch.
Same. You're looking at the wrong white dudes.
All right, if you're out there, I'll give you $3 and a shout out on our podcast. Make that video for me.
I will buy you a coffee.
Yo, you like cappuccinos? I'll buy you a cappuccino. I love cappuccinos.
I love lattes.
I don't know if
Vanilla
I've ever had a
lattes.
latte.
Just
I always go
extra
to
sweet.
I just go to the gas station and buy French vanilla cappuccinos out of the little machine. It's the only way I've ever had. That's like those fancies I get with coffee.
Yeah, I mean that's probably good enough. That's not great coffee, probably, but good enough.
I don't know. It's good enough for me because otherwise I just drink like whatever's here with some creamer.
All right, so let's segue and actually finally make our way to Endwalker. At this point, we are going to let listeners know, while we are not going to discuss spoilers of Endwalker, or we're gonna try real hard to avoid talking about spoilers for Endwalker. We are going to likely touch on spoilers through all of Shadowbringers. There's just no way to talk about Endwalker with at least probably accidentally stepping in a big wad of spoiler through Shadowbringers. So if you are not caught up to Endwalker, at least starting it, this is your cue to bail. Mary,
Yeah.
get out.
She's almost done with 5.0, right? She's
Yeah,
getting
but
close.
she's still got all the post story.
Oh no,
patches.
I know all the posts. But I'm just trying to figure out where she is.
Yeah, she's in a level 78 main story quest right now.
Ooh, she's getting there.
She's
for those listeners who don't know, Mary's like, I don't know, she's like one of our closest friends now within Final Fantasy. We've been like living vicariously through her as she experiences most Final Fantasies for the first time as an adult. So it's been a trip, and she's been messaging us about her adventures through Eorzea and beyond in Final Fantasy 14 and kind of reminding us why we love this game so much beyond what we experience with our own game. She is helping remind us the things in the past that have happened. Like, wow, yeah, there's so much has happened. This is why we love it.
Yeah, and she's in that unique position where she's obviously, Fair and I have experienced this story, from when A Realm Reborn first launched. And while the story that they have told, this arc that ends with Endwalker, is phenomenal, and we'll dive into that a little bit more. The only negative here that I can say about the story of Final Fantasy 14 is that it is at least to me, and of course, this is my opinion. I don't do the greatest stories told that long that you have to wait, months for a patch to give you this small little bit of info, then wait for the expansion for this massive story. It's a wonderful story. It's more than wonderful. It's phenomenal. It's one of the best, if not the best Final Fantasy story ever told, if not just one of the best stories ever told in fiction. But there's just so much I don't remember because I've not been able to play it continuously. And Mary in this unique position where she picked up the game and is able to play it continuously from its beginning to its end.
Level 1 through 90.
I can't. It's been such a treat. It's been such a treasure And I love it. I appreciate that she dove into this game and it has wrecked her and made her cry so many turns. But it's
And she
phenomenal.
did it because of us. Because of
Yes,
one of our first episodes of this podcast, we like gushed on about the game and the devs and everything. And she's like, "Oh, I'm gonna try it." And
little
what
did she
6 months
know.
6 months later, she's like crying in our DMs. What did you guys do to me? Why would you do this? And we're like, because now you know how we feel. Misery loves company. We all hate ourselves.
Exactly.
Welcome to the club.
But more to the story of Endwalker. I kind of summed it up, but it these days is so rare for a long form story, whether it's in TV, movies, books, whatever. I'm looking at you, Game of Thrones, or something to run that long and not screw up the ending, not to biff the landing, essentially. And
Eh,
for them to turn around, it's easier to mess up. How many, I feel like I can give far more examples for things that screw up, the ending, rather than nail it. That's just me personally. But for them to turn around this for, 8, however many years, and, the stake high for this coming off of Shadowbringers because Shadowbringers was that good. And then we got that 2-week delay and all of that, and there was a sort of tension going into Endwalker, but for them to, at least for me, to nail it out of the park and home run it with Endwalker and do as good as they did with this expansion is a testament to this team and the story that they're telling.
oh, okay, I agree. Like they didn't miss on the ending of Endwalker and this whole arc. Like it's there. They did it justice. I just think it was lame.
You thought the whole expansion was lame, or did you think parts were lame?
No, pretty much the whole thing was kind of lame.
All right, we're doing this. Let me straighten up here.
It
All
was
right,
lame, man.
without spoilers, unless we can't have this discussion without spoilers. What did you find lame about it?
So it was predictably unpredictable. And what I mean by that was the big bad was somebody you never seen before, completely out of left field that I was just supposed to care about. And then there was so much filler that didn't add any value to anything. And it was just there to make the game longer because that's what they wanted, was to make the expansion longer. And they accomplished that through a lot of garbage filler quests that honestly made me feel like stabbing myself in the eyes with pencils. And a writing team that has written some of the most unique and amazing stories that I've ever experienced, such as Shadowbringers and like the Dark Knight quests and all that stuff. They literally just busted out the giant book of tropes and wrote the ending to it. It was lame.
As a writer, and I am going to use that word loosely because I do not make a living writing, and I do not pride myself in I am a great writer and world builder. But I do understand the struggles in finding yourself getting stuck in tropes and in trying to dodge tropes. You can end up telling a story that's nonsensical or is not true to the characters that you're doing. And sometimes tropes are okay. I think this kind of harkens back to the I think I sent it to you, that video. I think it was about Wonder Woman and the writing in Wonder Woman
Yeah.
about how, like,
Yep.
you know, pathos versus ethos, undercutting your serious moments, and sometimes they can be cheesy, but like it's okay to like let yourself feel cheesy things, whereas, a lot of Marvel is like undercutting a serious emotional moment with a joke and not letting
Right.
the audience have that. Tropes are kind of the same way. Tropes can be done to me if they're done well and you're invested in the character and in the story that's being told. A trope is okay. Like I can let myself feel it, and I think that that's where Endwalker is, because I agree with you. Endwalker did very few things that I found as unpredictable, or I didn't see it coming. And it's hard to talk about those without spoilers, but I feel like you and I have talked about that. There were a couple of things that I did not know what we were going to get, and I was like, "Oh my god, this is fantastic!" But for the most part, it was kind of tropey. But I was so invested in the characters and the story and everything that led up to it that while could see it intellectually as like this is kind of tropey, and I saw this coming, I didn't care. I was just like so hyped and so in my feelings about it. And is that bad? Is that good? That depends on, the person consuming the art and the media. It's hard to say.
And like I completely understand that. And as somebody who has almost zero emotional investment in these characters, because I don't know, I've never really had any investment in characters. I just realized they're video game characters, and I don't care when people get killed off in video games ever. I've never cared. It's a video game.
You're a very practical, mechanics-oriented
I
type of
am.
video game player, and that's okay. That is not a
Well, that's the
judgmental
thing.
statement.
I immerse myself in stories. I take the time to get to know what's going on. It's not like I'm just blowing through things just to experience the mechanics and the battles and the fights and all that. I take my time. I like games that have deep lore and worlds. I like The Witcher 3. I really enjoyed talking to everybody and going around and doing all that stuff and immersing myself. And I read the books, the Witcher books and everything, because I loved the world that was created. And like the mechanics side of The Witcher wasn't that good. I didn't enjoy the combat that much, but the story and the characters were so good that I kept coming back. But like if at the end of The Witcher 3, like if Geralt had just died or whatever, I just wouldn't have cared. Like, who cares? It's a video game character. And maybe that's why I don't care about the ending of 14 bothered me so much, was because like, who cares? They're video game characters. It doesn't change my life.
You strike me as the type of person that you appreciate a good world and a story and like the story being told, but you're not necessarily like there for the emotional investment of the characters. You care more about the story and the world at large and not
Eh,
the individual characters moving around in them.
yes and no. I think maybe because
That or it's just real hard to get you invested in a character.
it might be really hard because like I really just can't think of any character's arc that I was just, I was like, yes, their redemption arc, or they got the girl, or I felt that way in like TV shows, but I don't know. I don't know. It takes a lot for me to get invested, and I'm not saying Final Fantasy 14 is bad for not getting me invested. I'm just saying it's very hard for me to do so.
You know what? And that's you are not wrong. We again, there's a reason we are not video game reviewers. These are your
Right, yeah, we are
opinions,
not.
and they're fair, and we're hanging out and having fun. Ultimately,
Right, and like maybe that's why I couldn't overlook those tropes, because I would have been happier if things that I can't say, spoilers. I would have been happier if the ending was sadder. That's what I
yeah,
wanted. I wanted the ending to be sadder than it was.
and I
And
and I think
because it
because
wasn't, those tropes were just glaring.
the ending was sad and kind of bittersweet to me, but I think you wanted to be not hurt because you weren't necessarily
No, no.
invested in the same way. So
I
I
wanted
don't know that
everybody
you
else
would have
to
been
be
hurt.
hurt.
Yeah, but you wanted something darker and a little bit more. Um,
Yes.
and it was a different type of ending. But we powered through. We made it. I loved it. But I will say that, while I don't, there is a certain amount of pacing issues that I expect to find in any MMO. In any MMO,
Absolutely.
RPG, World of Warcraft, whatever. I expect to get fetch quest. I expect to dig around in poo for some item for somebody, some sort of thing like that. I expect some shenanigans because that's how they do the world building. That's how they, fill these massive, large maps. And to an extent, that's okay. But there was a segment where after the very first 8-man trial we do, and we finally make it to the moon. I feel like that's not a spoiler. We all knew we were
No,
going to the moon.
that is not a spoiler.
Where I struggled with the game, not because of maybe pacing is not the right word. Again, I'm not a video game reviewer. I'm not going to say it was a pacing issue, but to me, it was whiplash. And I understand the need for when segments of a story are heavy and dark and intense or whatever, to give the story room to breathe and have some levity and have some fun. But it was so fast that there was whiplash going on, and I struggled with that part personally. That's not, necessarily a criticism of 14, but it was something I struggled with.
See, actually, I really enjoyed that segment that you're talking about after the
Why
first
are we so
trial.
opposite?
I don't know, but I really enjoyed it because everything that, like, we were going around that area, talking to the people there and doing all those stupid little things. But I enjoyed it because it was all new. That wasn't like going back to the same old people to do stupid things for. This was all, I was learning new things about new people that had never been in the game before. So it was just it wasn't old news. It wasn't, oh, go back to the waking sands and freaking deliver this dagger to some goblin. Like, no, it was learn about these people, who they are, why they're here, what they're doing, what's their mission, how can we help them, are they good, are they bad. It was more world building. It was building up excuse me, it was more moon building. It was building up the moon and its culture and everything. And so I appreciated that.
Can we
And so I liked
segue?
it.
Can we segue? Take a brief pause. I saw this on Reddit, and you said the Waking Sands, and it immediately made me think about this. But did you know the Waking Sands? I guess it's in Western Thanalin. I don't remember which
Yeah.
zone it's in. The area that the Waking Sands is in is called the Footfalls, and that's the name of the song for Endwalker.
What?
The Endwalker
Oh,
theme
I
is
get
like
you.
the
I get
Endwalker's
you. I get you.
footfalls. Like it's like it all ended at the beginning, where you meet the Scions. I don't know. They're just very clever, I feel.
So you mean to tell me
Ow.
that would you punch your desk?
Yes, I did. That's on camera.
Okay.
Ow.
Okay. That's what you get. I don't know why that's what you get.
I don't know.
So what you're saying is Yoshi P and the team made us return to the Waking Sands once more.
Yes.
Oh, I want to die. I'm
But
so tired of that place.
again, there's so much I want to talk about where
We don't have
it-
enough time either.
we just don't have enough time, and it's a spoiler, but there were so many things where, you know, almost nostalgic things. Seeing characters we hadn't seen in a while, pulling everything together the way they did. It could have been in a more half-hearted way. Music, so many elements that kind of repeated but presented themselves in new ways that really appreciated and felt like we had this concept of as Shadowbringers was coming to an end, the end of days was coming, the telephory, all of these things. It felt like the end of the world. And to me, and seeing the way they presented it and everything kind of came together, it really did feel like the end of the world, at least the end of Eorzea. And I really feel like they hit that mood quite a few times. I mean, again, it's an MMORPG, and you're going to get stuck with this whole like, oh my god, it's the end of the world, but I need you to go collect these 10 items that are just right across over here that I can't go do myself or have my friend go do. But they really did hit that whole like the world seemed invested. We had all of these nations, these people all collectively coming together and giving a crap. It could have been very easy for them to go, oh, here's these new zones we presented, and we're just going to keep the story confined to these zones and the characters in these zones so you can see the new things. But they really did a great job of like pulling in the rest of the world to make you care about the story and the consequences that were going on. And I thought that that was great.
Yeah, they definitely brought in way more characters than I thought we were going to see. And you're absolutely right. Like with the new expansion, they could have just kept it isolated into that new expansion and all those new zones, like a lot of MMOs do. Like, when they, a lot of MMOs, they'll introduce a new expansion and all the new zones, that's, the baby. That's what gets all the attention, and everything prior to it. Who cares? Just throw it in the garbage. It doesn't exist anymore. And that is one of the big things that I love about this game because it doesn't do that. There's no such thing as old content. There's no such thing as content that's outdated. Like none of that exists. Like even in the newest expansion, it could send you back to the very first zone you ever go to for a quest for whatever reason because they felt it was relevant for you to go back there. Like they definitely kept the entire world alive throughout the entire story, and you never felt like something didn't matter anymore because you had moved past it narratively. So and they just brought in, like, let's just say if you had a character you haven't seen in a while, you're gonna see him.
Yeah, and that's the other thing is like that, and that's done so smart. It's like, okay, they wanted us to see these new places and these new zones. Great. They understood that. So they brought the characters to us. Like,
I
yeah,
know, it
we
was
went back
great.
to to old places, and 14 has been pretty good about that at large. This isn't like an
All the
Endwalker
time,
thing.
yeah. Absolutely.
But they brought all those characters to us, and that was great. I thought that was just so good. It's like, you want to see these new places, fine, but all these characters are invested in the world and the stakes that they have here. So, like, they're coming with you.
I'll say like the second Avengers, what was it, in-game styled little meetup, whatever you want
Mhm.
to call it. The second one, that one was really good. And there was a character that didn't show up the entire expansion until then. And I was actually kind of pissed that we hadn't seen him or his workshop until then.
I love how he just, I mean, I don't know if you noticed this, but I love how he swooped in and that, you know, at the
That
very
was my
end
favorite new airship.
and was like, "Hey, like, this is great. Like, this whole thing that you guys did here was great. I'm gonna fix this one thing, and it's mine. It's now an Ironworks Sid
I
Garland
know,
thing. This, like, screw
dude.
the work that you did for hundreds of years. This is mine."
I love his character so much, and I'm so upset that he didn't come in until that point in the story. But like when he did, I don't even know, like he showed up when he showed up,
It was
and
so
it was
funny. Like,
good.
I was with you there. Like, I was like, here's an airship. We're talking about all these things. The moon is more than it appears to be. We'll leave it at
Moon's
that. All
haunted,
of these
literally.
moon's haunted. There's so many things going on that I expected him to him in his workshop to show up, and at no point did he until the very end, and then took credit for so much. And I was just
I know
like,
it was
this
great.
this is funny.
I loved it. I thought it was absolutely hilarious, and he like the 4 scenes he was in was probably some of my favorite scenes. It was so good.
It was good, but it was so nice to see, because again, another thing that they did really, really well, was that even though they brought all these characters back because like you said, if you had a favorite character at any point, they probably showed back up. We
No,
got
people are not coming back from the dead.
Yes, um, we got a decent amount of time with them. It's not like they just showed up and waved and smiled. They spoke some lines, they had some involvement. Um, it wasn't hollow, and I thought that that
Right.
was great.
Yeah, like it, exactly. They didn't show up just for the sake of showing up. Like there was actual reasons, and it made sense as to why they were there. It wasn't just, you could tell it wasn't just fan service. Like they didn't show up because, oh, we know that people love them. No, that they had a legit reason. It made sense within the context of the story, and it was done really, really well. It did not feel cheap or a rip off or anything.
Yeah, it felt, I don't want to say it, fan servicey has a negative connotation where it feels cheap, but like they really did service the fans who played the whole game, who maybe
They
hadn't
s-
they
they
serviced.
serviced.
Um,
I was
like, characters we hadn't seen in a long time who hadn't played major roles or who, didn't have a part in Shadowbringers because of what Shadowbringers dealt with or Stormblood or whatever. They made sure everyone kind of got to see their favorites. And for people like um, Mary, who has a list of categorized
Oh
NPCs
my gosh,
in
just like
their
30 of
ranking
them on there.
system, there's probably more than that now. Just throughout this whole thing, who really invest in these NPCs, like, what a treat. Like, again, not
Right.
to use a trite word like treat, but how great that they were just like, here's everyone, you know?
And you know what? You know what I just thought about is they even found a way to send us back to Shadowbringers area and include the characters that are there still, because
Yeah.
obviously they're not going to be in the new Endwalker zones. But
And the Scions can't get back there, but you can, and they
right, the
gave you a
scions
damn good
can't.
reason to get there
And
and go say hi to everyone.
like I know, and it led into like one of the biggest mind blowing
We aren't gonna
zones of
talk
the
about it
entire
here,
game.
but that zone, I referenced this earlier, but that zone I did not expect going into Endwalker at all, and
No, no,
one
I
of the
didn't
most
either.
best surprises.
That is zone number 5. That is the one that Yoshi and them refused to have the name shown of. So even though the name isn't even close to being a spoiler, they just refuse to say it anyways, just for that added layer of security. Let's just say that if you haven't gotten there yet, and when you do get there, you will understand why, and your mind is probably going to melt out of your ears and lay on the floor
Yep.
as you
I
witness the events.
uh, and I didn't keep a cry counter going for Endwalker, but I cried a lot. Like,
Yeah, you did. It was quite
I
a bit. I remember.
I'm pretty sure in Shadowbringers, I only cried maybe once or twice. You know, Shadowbringers was heavy and intense, but I wasn't invested the same way in Shadowbringers. And
It was hard to be with what was going on there. It was hard to be invested.
well, and it wasn't just that, but it was also where I was at in my life and the way I was playing 14, which was entirely different than how I played Endwalker. Um,
Okay.
and Endwalker was a lot more special, right? Because kind of taking a step back from the story, um, before we kind of bring things to a close with the episode, but Endwalker was special for me because listeners may not know this all because we haven't really got to dive into it, but the way I played MMOs or Final Fantasy 14 through a Realm Reborn to Shadowbringers was very different. In that time, I found a relationship that lasted longer than 6 months. Got married, had a kid, and a friend of mine that I played the game with, in a very toxic, unhealthy way, that friendship ended. And there was a time where I really didn't know if I would ever come back to 14 the same way through Shadowbringers. So, like, it was very, very different. But then I came back to 14, and I didn't just come back to 14. I got my mother in law into 14, and she was blown away by the story and got really invested. I can't count the number of times she called me crying and was blown away by the storytelling. She'd never played a narratively driven game in her life outside of Skyrim. And that was a more recent trial for her to kind of get into. And she was blown away by this. And then, like you said, we got Mary into this about 6 months ago, and she really dove
Yep.
in and took to it. And so, I had these very different associations with what 14 used to be in my head, and I came back to it and um, made brand new, healthy, wonderful associations with new people and played it a different way. So it kind of, I'm a different place in my life. It manifested differently, and Endwalker just was like the perfect storm of all of these things coming together to close out this chapter in the way I played the game, but also my life. Like,
Right.
and some of the topics that 14 touched on, which again, we won't dive into these too long or too heavy, but existential nihilism is a very, very heavy topic in this expansion and in the story. And that is I don't want to call it a belief system, but a topic that I have struggled with or been very attached to for a long time, and to see it be represented and written and talked about in such a beautifully written and meaningful, impactful way was worth the last 8 years in and of itself. I can't put it any other way. It was so good.
Yeah. I mean, it I don't know how to follow up with that, but because I
Sorry.
wow. But yeah, I mean, it was a big deal for you to play through the game and just like have the game music on and like
Yeah,
listen to music,
like
because normally you didn't.
listening to like the music the entire time is something that small.
I couldn't imagine having played through the main story quest and the last zone and not had that zone music on, because I go to the last zone right now, like on a hunt train or gathering or whatever. and like that music's still playing. I'm like, damn, this is good music. Like I get emotional still. There is still emotion in me. Don't think there's none. I still do have emotional reactions.
It's just
Like
triggered by different things.
it's just yeah. And like that last zone's music is and
I can't wait for the soundtrack to come out on Spotify.
I know like you and I had talked a lot about your return to 14 and you were very hesitant and we discussed it a lot and we talked about how you were going to do it and we talked about it for like it's like at least 6 months
Yeah, there was a lot of, like,
of
how it was gonna look me coming back to 14, what the time investiture I could afford to do
yeah,
it, and what
it
you
was a
know,
lot.
I wasn't gonna be grinding all of these things out every night. I have a family, all of these things, I really had to reassess and play it in a healthy way, and, yeah, I played harder with the expansion release than what I would normally will on a week-to-week basis, but it was happy to be back, and
Yeah.
the quote, unquote, "end of this story," was worth it in every way.
I think it's very fitting, especially because like now we do this podcast and you're associating one of your favorite games ever with healthy, happy things instead of negative, toxic things. And obviously, this podcast is one of those happy, healthy things
Yes.
because I associate this show, our show, with 14 a lot since that's kind of what we've been about the last few months. Um, but yeah, man, like it was like 6 months of build up for you to come back, and you weren't even really sure if you wanted to, and you were just like, oh, I'll just kind of mess around. And now you're back in it like harder than I am almost. Like there's times where you're just like busting through all this stuff. I'm just kind of over here.
One of the big changes was work from home, man. Like, it's been so easy, like, while I'm working to just be like, "Oh, I'm gonna go level my gatherer or crafter." Like, I'm just gonna, like, do these couple of things, and, again, like, I've got responsibilities and a family, but, like, I was also able to, you know, adjust things to where I could play most nights to, beat the story and stuff like that. Like, I'm not
Right.
gonna put that same time in now that the story is done and all of that, but, my family's wonderful. They accommodated. My mother-in-law was playing at the same time, while I was going through all this. You were playing at the same time. We were all just kind of like collectively going back and forth in some ways. We have a free company now that is called the what was it, the Magus Academy? Is that what
We
I
are the
called it?
Magus Academy. We're here to teach you guys.
Yeah, so if you're on
I guess.
Aether,
I don't
and
know.
you can, with servers the way they are, who knows when, but if you ever wanna come over to Siren, yeah, we have a free company called the Magus Academy. You can come hang out. Um, we're
No
looking to
house yet.
get a house on 6.1 and the Imperium when they release that. Looking forward to it.
Oh, I hope we get selected. I want a
Yeah.
house. I want a big gothic castle with like vampires and bats and stuff. I just want it Halloween year round.
I
That's what I
just wanna
want.
gotta find a way to rig that lottery.
Yeah, somebody who knows how to cheat.
But for now, it's tough to talk about Endwalker without getting too heavy into spoilers, and I don't know when we're gonna rip the Band-Aid off on spoilers. Maybe 6.1. It's tough. We want all of our listeners to be able to listen to each episode, and I know we have a couple listeners playing 14 that are kind of staggered in odd places throughout the story. So, tricky one, but eventually we got to be able to talk about it.
If you if
So
you really really want to discuss spoilers, join our Discord.
yeah, link in the episode description, and we'll make
Yep,
a Endwalker spoiler discussion channel, and we'll get
we will
down and
do
we'll talk
that.
about it.
Join our
But
Discord.
we're gonna kind of wrap things up. I want to touch on real briefly on our next episode. We have some very fun, very cool that I'm excited to share information with listeners. We're gonna kind of leave it at that to kind of build suspense and surprise, do a little ooh, going on. But next episode, we got some fun stuff that will be the beginnings of what Magus Brothers has in store for our listeners in 2022. We kind of touched on it last episode, but we are at the point now where we're actually quite a bit a ways over our 1,000 download mark that we hit. And while we don't do this for downloads, it definitely is like so many people, so many episodes.
Oh,
It makes us feel good, and
oh.
that's okay. But there's a lot of things we want to do. Obviously, we've kind of moved to we are now having a video up on YouTube, and that's a new thing for us.
Well,
We've
an
got
actual
some
video. We've always
yes,
had the YouTube videos, but now it's
actual
we're
videos of
actually in it.
us
We're in it.
moving our faces.
Oh.
But there's other things we want to do. We want to do like a 1,000 download kind of content contest giveaway. We're going to do something cool
Like
there.
a raffle,
Or-
I guess.
Yeah, and we're early talking about some basic merch, stickers, that type of thing. We've got some other ideas brewing that will slowly kind of creep out. But 2022 is going to be a big year for us. I'm very
Oh
excited,
yeah.
and next episode is where that's going to start. So I hope you all are buckling up.
Get ready. Buckle up. I don't have any funny jokes for that, so we're just gonna go with this awkward exit.
Yeah, just tell the listeners where they can find you, Fair.
You guys can find me at Feyerbrand at pretty much everything. I am finally coming back to streaming. I took roughly a month off for the holidays and to kind of recharge and figure out my content. But you can find me on Twitch, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube. That's where you can find me. Also, if you want to do a Game of the Month club, you can join my Discord where we play a different RPG every month and then talk about it. And that's it for me.
And if you want to check out the Magus Brothers, we do a Magus Mondays tweet where we want everyone to kind of interact and throw their comments and shares in. We are on Twitter at Magus Brothers. Check out our website at magusbrothers.com. It has links to all of our podcast platforms, our YouTube, all that good stuff. Please give us a follow. Please review and share this podcast on your podcatcher platform of choice. If you have access to Apple, please review us there. They are big, important things for the algorithm that help us as far as visibility and get us to new listeners. But aside from that, please look forward to our next episode, and Happy New Year again to everybody. 2022 is going to bring some great Final Fantasy news.
Yes, it's going to be so good.
And
So
on that
good.
note, bye.
Bye.